If you're an American thinking about dating a Brazilian, stop right there. Because what you're about to hear might change the way you see love, relationships, and culture forever. Welcome to Cultural Clashes, the channel where we break down the hidden shocks that happen when worlds collide. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Trust me, you'll have a lot to say after this story. Dating someone from another country always comes with surprises. Different languages, different habits, even different ways of saying "I love you." But when we talk about Americans dating Brazilians, we are not just talking about small differences. We are talking about an emotional roller coaster, a storm of passion, jealousy, love, and confusion that can either feel like the most exciting adventure of your life or the biggest headache you've ever had. So let's set the stage. Imagine this. John, a 32-year-old from Texas, works in IT, logical, direct, efficient. He likes to plan his weekends, keeps his calendar clean, and values his personal space. On a business trip to Rio de Janeiro, he meets Mariana, a 28-year-old Brazilian who lives for the moment. She loves the beach, music, parties, and has a big, loud family that calls her 3 times a day just to check how she's doing. For John, she feels like a whirlwind, passionate, fun, unpredictable. For Mariana, John feels like stability, safety, a calm port in the storm. At first, they are fascinated by each other, but soon, the cultural clashes start to show. One of the first barriers comes with communication. Americans are used to being direct. If John doesn't like something, he says, "I'm not comfortable with that." Straight to the point. Brazilians, on the other hand, communicate with emotions, gestures, stories. Mariana doesn't just say she's upset. She raises her voice, she gestures. She wants John to feel her emotions through her words. To him, it feels like drama. To her, it feels like he doesn't care. Both are speaking English, but they are not speaking the same language of emotions. And in relationships, that gap grows bigger every day. Then comes family. For Americans, dating is about 2 people. Maybe later, parents and close relatives get involved, but the relationship begins with me and you. In Brazil, dating is about much more than that. If John wants to take Mariana seriously, he has to be ready to meet her parents, her siblings, her cousins, her grandmother, even her best friend's uncle who shows up at Sunday barbecues. For Mariana, that's normal. Family is everything. But for John, it's overwhelming. He wonders, why do I need to have lunch with 15 people just because I'm dating one person? For her, if he avoids the family, it means he doesn't care enough. And there begins another clash. Now let's talk about jealousy. In American culture, jealousy is often seen as a red flag, a sign of insecurity or toxicity. But in Brazilian culture, jealousy is almost expected. If a partner doesn't show jealousy, it can be interpreted as indifference. Mariana might test John. She posts a photo at the beach in a bikini and expects him to react. If he says nothing, she wonders if he even cares. But John sees this as unnecessary drama. He believes love should be based on trust, not constant tests. Suddenly, what Mariana sees as proof of love, John sees as immaturity. Another wall rises between them. Social life becomes another battlefield. Americans value planning, routines, small gatherings. "Let's grab dinner on Friday, just the 2 of us," John suggests. But Mariana thrives on spontaneity. "Let's go to my friend's birthday, then a samba party, then maybe the beach after." To John, it feels exhausting. To Mariana, his lack of excitement feels boring. What began as opposites attract quickly turns into we have nothing in common, and then the daily expectations. In the U.S., independence is key. Couples respect each other's time. Texting all day is not necessary. But in Brazil, attention is proof of affection. If Mariana doesn't hear from John for a few hours, she assumes something is wrong. For John, being busy at work is normal. For her, silence feels like rejection. That mismatch in expectations creates endless arguments. But here's the twist. These clashes are not just problems, they are mirrors. They reveal what each culture values most. Americans value independence, privacy, logic. Brazilians value connection, passion, warmth. When these two collide, the question becomes, which values are stronger? Which ones can bend? Let's go back to John and Mariana. At first they laugh about their differences. She calls him cold American. He calls her dramatic Brazilian. It feels playful. But as months pass, the jokes stop being funny. Every dinner turns into an argument. Every holiday feels like a negotiation. He wants quiet Christmas with just the two of them. She wants a house full of cousins, music, and food. He wants space. She wants closeness. Here's where the cultural clash becomes unavoidable, the meaning of love itself. For Americans, love is often about compatibility, partnership, stability. For Brazilians, love is fire, chaos, a storm that proves its strength every day. John wants peace. Mariana wants intensity. They both want love, but they define it differently, and that's why so many Americans who date Brazilians feel like they are on a roller coaster. The highs are amazing, the passion, the fun, the adventure. But the lows can be unbearable. The jealousy, the family drama, the constant misunderstandings. For some, the roller coaster is worth it. For others, it's a ride they never want to take again. This is only the beginning of the story. Because as we go deeper, we'll see how money, religion, social expectations, and even small daily habits become explosive points of conflict. Americans and Brazilians may be drawn to each other like magnets, but sometimes magnets repel as much as they attract. So buckle up, because in the next part, we're going to explore the darker, messier side of these cultural differences. What happens when the honeymoon phase ends? When passion turns into pressure? And when love feels more like war than peace? Stay with me, because the clash is only getting started. When the passion cools down and the daily routine begins, that's when the cultural differences truly reveal their weight. In the case of John and Mariana, what once felt exotic and exciting now feels heavy and confusing. The little details, once charming, start to become unbearable. This is where most relationships between Americans and Brazilians either adapt or collapse. Let's start with money. For many Americans, money in relationships is about fairness and clarity. Bills are split, expenses are shared, and independence is respected. John is used to paying his half, expecting Mariana to pay hers. But in Brazil, the culture around money in dating can be very different. Traditionally, men are expected to pay for dinners, outings, even small expenses as a demonstration of affection and responsibility. When John suggests splitting the bill at a restaurant, Mariana feels offended. For her, it feels like a lack of generosity. For him, it feels like fairness. That small cultural expectation becomes a source of constant tension. He believes he's respecting equality. She believes he's showing indifference. Both are convinced they are right. Religion and spirituality bring another challenge. America is diverse, but religion there tends to be private. Faith is personal, often kept separate from daily conversations. In Brazil, spirituality is woven into daily life. From Catholic traditions to evangelical churches, from Afro-Brazilian rituals to spiritual practices, religion is not just private. It's social, it's family, it's visible. Mariana prays before meals, attends church with her family every Sunday, and expects John to come along. But for him, religion is something he rarely talks about, something individual. He doesn't see why he should participate in her rituals. For her, his absence is not just lack of faith, it's lack of support. Once again, the cultural clash deepens. Even small habits become battlegrounds. In America, punctuality is sacred. If John says 7:00, he means 7:00 sharp. But in Brazil, sevens might mean 7:30 or 8:00, depending on the context. Mariana doesn't see the harm in arriving late to dinner. For John, it feels like disrespect. On the other hand, Mariana sees his obsession with punctuality as robotic, almost cold. She tells him, "Relax, life is not a schedule." He replies, "Respecting time is respecting people." The argument is endless. Food is another landmine. Americans often prefer quick, practical meals. Sandwiches, fast food, protein shakes. Efficiency is the priority. Brazilians, however, treat meals as sacred. Lunch is not just food, it's connection, conversation, and event. Mariana wants long family lunches on Sundays, full of rice, beans, barbecue, laughter, and hours at the table. John just wants to eat quickly and move on. For her, his attitude feels lonely, detached. For him, her demand for long meals feels exhausting. And then comes intimacy. American culture tends to value privacy, even in relationships. Public displays of affection are often limited. Brazilians, however, are expressive. Hand-holding, kissing in public, hugging constantly, it's normal. Mariana expects affection everywhere they go. John feels uncomfortable. He doesn't see why he should kiss at the supermarket or hold hands while walking. For her, that means he's cold. For him, it's just cultural. What she calls love, he calls unnecessary. At this point, it becomes clear the definition of love itself is different. Americans often define love as a partnership, a team effort built on trust and respect. Brazilians define love as intensity, constant proof, passion on fire. When these definitions collide, misunderstandings grow into arguments, and arguments grow into distance. Let's imagine one night. Mariana is getting ready to go out with John. She chooses a short dress, makeup, heels. She feels beautiful. At the bar, she dances with energy, laughs loudly, talks to strangers. For her, this is life, joy. But John feels uncomfortable. He sees her behavior as flirting. He feels disrespected. They argue. She says, "You don't know how to have fun." He says, "You don't know how to respect boundaries." Both go home angry. What was supposed to be a fun night turns into another cultural war. The truth is, Americans and Brazilians approach relationships with different priorities. For Americans, the balance between me and us is essential. For Brazilians, the focus is on us first, even if the me suffers. That's why many Americans feel suffocated when dating Brazilians, and why many Brazilians feel unloved when dating Americans. But here's the paradox. The very things that create conflict are also the things that attract them in the first place. Americans are drawn to the passion, warmth, and joy of Brazilians. Brazilians are drawn to the stability, responsibility, and calm of Americans. It's like fire and ice, magnetically pulling toward each other, but burning when they touch. So is it impossible for Americans and Brazilians to date? No, but it requires something rare, extreme patience, open communication, and the ability to embrace differences without trying to change them. And let's be honest, most people don't have that kind of patience. That's why so many of these relationships start with fireworks and end in ashes. Think again about John and Mariana. After a year of dating, they've had more fights than celebrations. Every difference feels heavier than the last. They still care for each other, but love now feels like a negotiation. He feels drained. She feels neglected. The relationship that once felt like a dream now feels like a burden. Eventually, they face the truth. Love is not enough when the cultural clash is too strong, and that's the warning. If you're an American thinking about dating a Brazilian, know this: you are not just dating a person. You are dating a culture, a family, a way of life. And if you're not ready for the fire, the chaos, and the intensity, you will get burned. But maybe that's exactly the point. Some people want safety. Others want adventure. For Americans, dating Brazilians can be both the most dangerous and the most exciting love story of their lives. The question is, do you have the courage to ride that roller coaster? Or will you step away before the first drop? So what do you think? Would you date across this cultural clash? Or is this ride too wild for you? Tell us in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because when cultures collide, love is never simple. It's a battlefield. And sometimes, surviving that battlefield means not entering it at all.